Hello, welcome back to Sushi LIVENODING. Let's continue our explorations with Magical Voxel. So in this episode, I'm going to show you like a trick where you can generate like a 2D procedural pixel art using Blender and Sverchok Add-On, and then export it out for Magical Voxel. So it's gonna be a kind of interesting method. So let's get started. Gonna delete everything. If you can hear noise, because I'm actually rendering using another Blender, so keep that in mind. So Sverchok and save as Sverchok 2D pixel voxel. So we're gonna generate like a 2D pixel procedural 2D pixel art and then use it for voxel generations. The voxel itself is gonna be just a 2D voxel. So let's have a look. We can start with texture viewer. So this guy is gonna be doing the job for us. The output is going to be an image, so we're gonna turn on pass, and we're gonna use this custom texture dimension. So width and height 10 by 10. It's gonna be basically 10 by 10 in Magical Voxel as well. So let's do a quick random one. We can use random number. Later, at some point, we can use random vector. So let's see what's the difference. So random number basically will generate random number. By default, it's generating 10 random number like that. We can turn it to float, make it float, and also because the float is going to be a value between 0 and 1 currently, so that's by default. And we can randomize the seed, and we can simply plug this into the texture and see what we get. We are not seeing anything because we need to change this to texture. So apparently we do get something. So it's a 10 value being repeated 10 times for this 10 by 10 pixel. If we randomize it, we're gonna have this value displayed as this black and white or grayscale kind of value. This actually will work right away for Magical Voxel. If we save image, save it into the desktop, and then we go back to the desktop and then simply drag this into Magical Voxel, we're gonna have our voxel. It's actually really that simple, and you can of course export this out as a PLY and save it on the desktop. Save it as vox out 001, and then back to Blender. You go file, import the PLY desktop, just grab it and then look at it in the with the texture, and then you get it. So basically it's that simple. With this guy, be careful because the PLY actually doesn't export as it's not like per block. If you try to smooth it or something, you will start to see that they are all just a separate polygon face. Keep that in mind, and if you separate all of them, it's gonna be like very heavy. So let's delete that, and then the color itself is not material, it's basically a vertex color. So let's go back to this guy, and then let's see if we can generate something more interesting. One thing you might notice that with this version of Magical Voxel, this is version 0.98, this actually have animations, so you can have animation frames. So kind of interested with that. We can actually export it, this texture as animated image. Before we do that, let's investigate this a little bit more. So we have 10 by 10. Supposedly, like we need to provide 100 value to fill up all the vertices. If we actually did that, we're gonna have this, because it's a random number, basically pipe into this guy for black and white, which is like expecting a single value, and we get this, and we can randomize it, and then of course save the image, and then go back to desktop, and then just drop it into Magical Voxel, and you get this. This is very cool. And Magical Voxel understand this value, and if you ever go to the render based on this index, you can then turn it into something that emits. So now it's this guy is emitting something. Turn off the sun, turn off the sky, and it's starting to get more interesting. And this is the index value that's coming in when you bring in this guy into this guy, you know, into from Blender into Vox, and when you drop in a PNG, you get something like this. So let's continue on. We actually, with a PNG, of course, you can supply RGB color. So with RGB, you can really create a RGB value. Let's switch to RGB. Currently, it does giving us something, which is kind of interesting. It's basically interpolating this value and then use it for the RGB. Supposedly, you can also give an alpha value, and if you want to do it properly, we can use the color in. So this guy RGB, and then with the alpha can go in here. Now this is actually the proper way to do it. And then for the RGB, we can supply a single value for RGB, so we get grayscale. But the alpha is something that I want to talk about. The alpha is going to be like either 0 or 1, right? With 0 and 1, you can of course use random value and then turn it into integer of this between 0 and 1, and we have 100 value we can plug into this alpha, and then that will turn our alpha, you know, turn on our alpha on and off. And we can of course save this, save as image again, and then go back to the desktop, drop it into Vox, and supposedly, if I'm not wrong, we should have image that contains the alpha. The alpha is supposed to work. Let me see if I'm doing this properly. So RGB, yes, correct. Randomize this. Let's save this again. File, save as, texture. Drop it. And are we getting anything? No, we're not seeing the alpha, because maybe I need to save the image with the alpha. RGBA, okay, that's where I forgot. Save it again. We need to save the image with alpha. Now let's check it out. So now our image should have alpha channel. We can drop it. So there you go. This is definitely interesting way to generate voxel. You know, even though it's like just a 2D voxel, X and Y grid, but still it's a 3D inside voxel, inside Magical Voxel. And yeah, so we can really use this. If you want to randomize this, of course, with the RGB here, you can have different value of random for the RGB, like that, and then randomize the seed. Now we have totally random numbers, and with this guy we can use a frame number and then try this. Let's make like a 20 frames. We're gonna render this out actually, and the output's gonna be 100 by 100. Actually 10 by 10, 100 pixel, and then this random number. We actually want to randomize this value as well. So with the frame number, let's use math and give it some value, 2, actually this one 2, duplicate it, get it, 4, just random, you know, and plug in the frame number here. We're gonna offset the frame number and then plug this into the seed. It's giving an error because we need to convert the float to integer. Okay, now it's pretty happy with it. So we have random number and then all goes into this guy. Yeah, this is RGB currently. We can switch to HSV later. Let's actually try render it out. Oh, it will not actually render at the moment. We need to set up a little bit of compositing. Use node compositing and then just grab this image from Sverchok, plug this into the composite, and this will generate image. Render animations. That's 20 frames done. Like it's really fast. I'm pretty happy with it. So we have this. So 20 frame. Let's try just drop it into Magical Voxel. 20 of them. Drop it. So we have 20 frames being generated. And you can see we have actually animations. Really cool. I think I found and this guy, the palette, actually it's this color must be contained in one of this color, but we can always change the color palette into something else. So basically, I think this works with the index. If we render this out, it looks like this, pretty dull. And we can perhaps pick a color, drop it, oops, paint that, and then render it out and turn the pink into emission. There's always a nice little trick there. Make it glow, turn on the bloom. Bloom is actually really cool in Magical Voxel, and this is something I'm expecting from Blender Eevee at some point. Glow and bloom. There. Pretty cool. Let's see if we are getting any pink again. So I'm still kind of trying to understand how the Magical Voxel index works in this way. The palette is actually very interesting. I want to transfer what we can generate here in Blender using Sverchok or animation nodes, and then pipe it out into Magical Voxel. Maybe we can actually generate like a palette. Of course, Blender can do more, right? Remember, Blender always can do more because it's like a full-on 3D package. This one, Magical Voxel, does what Magical Voxel does well. You know, like it works with the voxel, and you can attach more voxel if you need. Maybe expand this to 5, so you can add more voxel. This is very easy. And the app itself is, I think, designed really well, and then the UI is very intuitive and very simple. You just work with voxel, like Lego pieces, box, but you can place box by box, and you can select it and do whatnot. The attach have many options. This one will actually draw box. I don't know. I think we can perhaps utilize Magical Voxel and Blender together somehow. So yeah, that's pretty random. You can always go back to this setup, and let's say instead of using HSV, we use RGBA. With RGBA, you can take it out, the saturation and value, and just use the hue. Make like a kind of like a pastel kind of look. If you're happy with it, render it out. 20 frames being generated. I'm not sure if Magical Voxel have a limit or to how many frames it can use, but this is like kind of nice to be able to do this. how the color seems to change. See, that's also quite interesting. I drop it, it looks like this, and I scrub, and the color disappears. So that's interesting. Oh, there you go. There's the one of the palette actually have the pastel color. The rest of them doesn't. Maybe I need to delete all these. Select it, drop it. So now all have this color. If I change the palette, all the color changes as well. This we can also increase the size very easily. Let's make it like 30 by 10, so we have 300 now. 300. The value repeats itself automatically. Better if we supply 300 as well here, and 300 here. Render it again. Oh, actually, it's gonna be 30 by 10. Render, and then go back. Drop it into Magical Voxel, and we have the new animations. Oh, since we already have animations, it's kind of merged together. So yeah, it's quite interesting. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it, what I want to show you. Hopefully you like this method to generate 2D for 3D voxel, even though it's still like a 2D, 3D voxel. At some point, we're gonna learn how to turn this into a 3D, maybe using script, maybe. Let me know what you think, and thank you again. I'll see you next time. Bye.